Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with Anthony Robles, the NCAA wrestling champion, whose journey from Mesa, Arizona to the top of the sports shines in the 2024 film Unstoppable. Now streaming on Amazon Prime, this biopic produced by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon stars, is it Jerome? Okay,
Yeah, Jarrell Jerome.
Jerome as Anthony, you, and Jennifer Lopez as your mom, Judy, tracing his path through bullying and family struggles to an undefeated 2011 NCAA title at Arizona State. Anthony even performed his own wrestling stunts, bringing raw authenticity to the screen. So, how I came about you, my daughter and I mean, like every family, we were like, you know what, let's watch a movie. We haven't watched a movie in a while.
Mhm.
And we went on Amazon Prime and we are skimming. We're like, no, no. And then we came across yours and we saw their trailer and we're like, yeah, let's watch that one. And I don't want to give it away because I really want to encourage listeners to watch it. But I end up in tears and I'll probably end up in tears of joy and happiness and being inspired by your story. So that's how we came across from you. And I reached out to your agent and I was like, is there any chance that I can get him on the podcast? And you have been so busy. You're busy today. Um, but it's such an honor and such a treat to have you on. And again, I really encourage listeners to watch your movie.
That's truly an honor. I really appreciate your support. So thank you.
Oh, no. I mean, when people see your story, they're going to understand. So, your journey from the time you're born that led you to being NCAA champion and then this movie is inspiring. I would love for you to share with listeners your story and kind of like what led you to be unstoppable.
Yeah, so it started with my mom. I was born when I was born. My mom had me when she was young. She was 16 years old, and I was born missing my leg, and it was something that the doctors didn't expect. It was a shock to everybody, and pretty much the world had these low expectations of me from that point on. All the things that I wouldn't be able to do, I wouldn't be able to accomplish because of this. But luckily, I was blessed with an amazing mom who, she never saw me in those from those eyes. Her thing was always, he's perfect the way he is, and she raised me in the way to where I never let me missing the leg hold me back. So I grew up like any other kid, just wanted to run around, wanted to play sports, and at 14 years old, I got introduced to wrestling, which I fell in love with it because I felt like it gave me a platform and an opportunity to show people what I was capable of in one of the toughest things that you can physically do in the world. And so I love that one-on-one aspect of it, and I just felt like this is my opportunity to show people missing the leg doesn't matter. What matters is what I have inside and what my mom raised me to think in my head. So it started a journey for me that some ups and downs, but I'm just so grateful to have been introduced to the sport to help me develop confidence and give me an opportunity to showcase my talents.
I mean, that showcase, that what you just shared was shown throughout the entire movie. Um, in high school, wrestling wasn't an instant success for you. What was a turning point that made you believe that you can compete at this at the highest level? Because from where you started to where you ended, it's night and day.
Well, it was actually after my freshman year wrestling, first year of competition. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, and I went to the Mesa City tournament, and I finished last place. And I remember just really getting home that night and just feeling discouraged and just defeated, and upset. And I contemplated quitting that night, and just thinking like maybe people are right. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life. But there was just a voice in my head that night that motivated me. It was like, don't let your challenge become your excuse. That's something my mom always used to tell me. And I just remember thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to stick this out. You know, I am not going to stop training. I'm going to give everything that I have into this sport so that I could show people what I'm truly capable of. I'm going to prove people wrong. I want to be the best. And so, I'd say mentally that was my turning point for me. And I was blessed with some great people along the way, some support, from teammates, from coaches who, that summer they really put time and effort into me to help train. and help really, to allow me to see progress, allow me to have some victories along the way, that would motivate me to keep going. But it was definitely a turning point for me mentally after that freshman season, and just when I made the decision, said, I'm not going to stop till I get those brackets, I get those awards, until I reach the top of that podium.
I love that. And then you mentioned your coaches. How was it just them or other people that just really were your backbone and your foundation to push you forward, or were there other people, and how big of an influence were they in your life?
I'd say, apart from my mom and my siblings, my coaches were a huge part of it. Because they were like father figures. They still are. They're close friends with me now. I'm actually meeting my former college coach on Friday for coffee. I'm taking off here in a little bit to go to wrestling practice with my former college assistant coach. So these are people that are part of my life, my circle, and I leaned on them. And also I had some great teammates. One of them who was the best man in my wedding, and he's got a son now our sons are about the same age. They're right around 2 years old. And so yeah, those people in my life, it's they picked me up when I needed it, and even if they didn't have the right things to say, they didn't know what to say, they'd just be there, just sitting there with me, as I was struggling. And that meant the world, because a lot of time growing up, I kind of felt like it was me against the world. Like I was just fighting to prove everybody wrong. I was fighting, all these things. But to have these few people in my corner that believed in me, that meant the world to me. And I tell people now, it's like, it's okay to lean on others for help. A lot of times we want to be macho and strong, and like, I can do this. I don't need anybody. It's okay. We don't have all the answers. We need that advice, that input from other people at times to help level up. And those people in my life, they still to this day continue to help me level up.
And what would you tell athletes or even just regular people? Because I know a lot of people have that me against the world mentality with whatever they've gone through that led them to that mindset. What would you tell them to kind of break through that? And whether it's like you said, to lean on other people, but also just to use that as kind of a, I feel like that's kind of like a stepping stone to just with grit, just to persevere. So what would you tell to people?
Um, well, I'd say first, if they're struggling with that part of, like, I had to prove everybody wrong, and make sure you kind of use that as motivation, rather than like, I have to prove other people wrong, so maybe they're right about me. Allowing that doubt of others to get in your head, refuse that, block it out. Use it as motivation. Say, no, I'm going to prove them wrong. No, I'm going to show them this is what I'm capable of. And then also, as you go through it, just remind yourself that even slow progress is progress. It's like we put so much pressure on ourselves at times to like reach the end, reach the top of the podium, to get to a certain place at a certain level. And a lot of times it doesn't happen as quickly as we want, and there's all these delays, there's unexpected things that pop up. So make sure you're celebrating the little victories, the little things that you're doing right, the little progress that you're making, those opportunities and the little blessings in your life along the journey. And that's just going to kind of give you extra fuel and energy to continue to pursue what you're going after, whether it's in sports or in your life. Don't overlook those little things, those little victories and blessings. And that'll kind of give you a positive mindset to really just go back to, like, okay, I'm not there yet, I don't have this just yet, but look where I'm at, look what I've done already. And then lean on others, ask for that help, ask for that support. And at the end of the day, just know, if I give my very best, and whatever I do, that right there is something to be celebrated about. It's not about the end result all the time. It's just about giving your very best in what you do and leaving it all out there.
I love that. It's kind of like betting on yourself, and it's leaving it all on the floor or the mat for
Yeah.
you, and just knowing that you gave it all and that's it.
Mhm.
And we shouldn't ever dismiss or look over any little amount of progress, because that progress took a lot just to even get there. So I love that. Um, as Abel's dad, a speaker and a speaker who inspires others, what's one big lesson from your life on the wrestling mat or off that you want listeners to use to tackle their own tough times?
No, I'd say, there's a phrase in the movie, and I don't want to tell exactly what it's at, but the coach says, "Find a way to win," and that's that's the phrase. That's what I would recommend to anybody listening. Find a way to win. And not just in sport, but in your life. In relationships, whatever you're going through. Find a way to win, because there's always going to be the list of reasons why it's going to be difficult. Why you can't. All the negative things. Don't focus on that. Find that path, find that path of victory to get to where you want to be, to win, to be successful in those things that are important to you in your life, or that you want in your life. And just choose to keep your mindset set on those things and focused on those things. The more you do that, the more you train your mind to focus on the positives, and to find the solutions, rather than what's not working and what's out of our control. You get stronger mentally. You naturally start to think that way, and the more you do that, the further you'll be able to go.
I love that. And then what do you say for those with limitations? Limitations physically that we can see, and then there's a lot of limitations that we put on ourselves,
Mhm.
or there's that invisible limitation that someone's dealing with something that we can't see, but it's there, and they think that's it. Like there's nothing else they can do. What would you say to them to get them out of that shell?
I'd say there's certain limitations that are within our control and certain things that aren't. And so I'd say if it's within your control, if it's something that you can change or you can adjust, then focus on finding that solution. But if it's something that's exterior, something that it's just it is what it is, like me missing the leg. um, you know, you just have to be at peace with that, and accept that, and say, okay, maybe I don't have this, maybe I can't do this, but I can do this. I can go here, I can do this instead. So just realizing that it's not the plan that we have for ourselves. It's not always going to play out the way we planned it to, but that's okay. That's part of life, that's part of the journey. You just have to be able to flow and adjust with that. It's just like in a wrestling match. Like I can go in with a strategy, with a plan of what I want to do and how I want to execute, but things are going to happen. I could face something. He could be stronger than me. He could be fat, whatever. At that moment, I just have to adjust. I have to shift. So if you're facing those limitations, if it's out of your control, just be at peace with it. So, okay, it is what it is. I'm going to move on with this. This is what's within my control right now. These are the things that I can change, that I can adjust, and put all your time, effort, and energy and your focus on that. Because the things that you can't control, that's just an exhausting thing to do, and you're never going to get any results from it. It's just going to be there whether you like it or not. So make the most of what you have and what you can do.
I love that. I think that speaks for anything of you can only control with what's in your reach, and we can't stress and burden our minds or lose sleep of all of these extra external things that we can't control. There's no point. I think I learned that a long time ago. Like, why am I stressing over this thing that I have to give it to God, and whatever's meant to be, it's meant to be out of that. So I love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so your mom in the movie and in real life had her own struggles.
Mhm.
And in the movie, it seems she was inspired by you to make changes in her own life, which also was a domino effect in a beautiful way for you and your siblings. So, what would you, um, what was a turning point for her where because she became kind of like how you are in the mat, it was her, but in her own real life, which I thought it was so beautifully shown. I mean, I don't know her in real life and her real story in real life, but from the movie, what was that turning point for her and you guys, your siblings?
Yeah, my mom is my hero, and I believe that the movie did a great job of just showing her journey and what she went through, and parts. And for my mom, I think the turning point for her, when my former stepfather walked out, it was kind of like basically we were just at rock bottom. It's like he's wherever, and like we're in danger of losing the house, and everything's just falling apart. And my mom at that moment, she's just looking at us, and and the way she raised us and she raised me, it's like you don't let your challenge become your excuse. So I think she just took her own words to heart, really. And just kind of started to pick herself up. And it was the little things. It wasn't like, oh, all of a sudden overnight it's like I wake up and everything's great. My mom, I remember she started getting a part-time job. She started taking night classes at a community college and started building that up little by little. And then my family, my siblings, and I, we've always been very close. So we would just lean on each other. For me, when I was on a wrestling mat, that was kind of a fun family experience for us. My family would come to the tournaments and to the matches, and we'd celebrate afterwards, whether I won or lost. We just have dinner and have good memories. So we were getting that energy and feeding off each other to kind of continue into that fight. But I think it was just, really my mom just coming to the conclusion one day to where she's like, the only way to go from here is up. It's time to pick up, time to move forward, and going back to just control the controllables. Like he's gone. This is what it is with the house situation. What can we do? How can I move forward with it? And little by little, she started to kind of take those steps, and it was really neat to see my mom just overcome those opponents in her life little by little. Fast forward to now, she's working at Arizona State University in the athletics department, and she has her PhD, and she's incredible. But it was just having that courage for her to take that first step. To stand up, take that first step, and then chain them up together. One step at a time, little by little, and it adds up.
I mean, you both are inspirational, but your mom doing that and then hearing she has her PhD, that's just amazing. Hats off to her. Just as a woman, but also a single mom, doing all of that, that's just incredible. I'm sure you're so proud of her and your siblings.
Definitely. I'm a dad now. My wife and I, and he's my son is 2, and it's like I'm blown away now. It's like wow, it's my wife and I with one little one, and my mom was with I have 3 brothers, a little sister, and she's working and she's going to school. It blows me away. And I'm constantly thinking back now to like how my mom raised me and the lessons she taught me, how she did it. Because like for me to be the best dad that I can be, she's the ultimate blueprint right there for me to how to be a great parent.
Uh, I bet she cries hearing you talk about her like that. If my daughter, whenever she says anything, I just break down in tears because I think there's no better compliment and honor than coming from your own kids, you know? Um, so you've inspired so many. What's next for you? And then can you just share what you're doing now?
Yeah. So, next for me, I've been blessed with the opportunity to travel the country and speak as a public speaker, motivational speaker. So that's my main career focus now. Also, I'm a high school wrestling coach here in Arizona at Hamilton High School. I'm motivated because I want to give back to this next generation of youth, like my coaches gave back to me. Like they molded and helped me to become the man I am today. And so I'm excited for that. To teach these young men and women skills that they can apply not just in wrestling but in their life to be successful. And really, to me, I just want to share with the world what unstoppable is. That word it applies to everyone if they're willing to grasp it. So I'm just taking advantage of the opportunities and just really enjoying life right now. With speaking, with coaching, with being a dad, which is so much fun, and just hoping to hopefully motivate that next unstoppable story that's out there to overcome a speed bump or an opponent in their life.
I think this is a perfect generation because this generation is obviously not like ours or the generations before us. We didn't grow up with technology or any of that. And there's a lot of mental health going on. So I think what you're doing and your philosophy and heart and story is just remarkable and so fitting and appropriate for this generation to succeed in anything they do. So I think that's amazing. And for your son, is he going into wrestling? Do you have him kind of playfully throwing him on the mat?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's already in the wrestling room with us, and I have my nonprofit wrestling club. We practice on Monday, Wednesday evening. So he was just in the club practice with me last night, running around the room, chasing the kids around. He loves it. So hopefully, as he gets older, he'll continue to love wrestling and want to do it. And if he decides to do something else, I'll be a little sad, but I'll be completely okay with it. I'm just going to be his number one fan no matter what he does and support him like my mom supported me. But if he wrestles, that's just going to be extra special. So we'll see.
Oh, I love that. And then can you share a little bit about your foundation you just shared?
Yes. So, the foundation my mom and I started, it's called the Robles Unstoppable Foundation. And what we focus on is, we serve the underserved student athletes in Arizona. just giving them opportunities, whether it's tutoring help, whether it's some scholarships to compete at the next level, whether it's opportunities. My nonprofit wrestling club is a part of that. It's for free scholarships to attend that. Just giving the kids out there who are working hard, but they just don't have the opportunities like everybody else does. They might be fighting a little bit more out there. They might be dealing with a little bit more. We just want to help them, to support them, because there are people in my life that supported me along the way. And I think that's what it's all about, is just that one act of kindness can change somebody's life. And that's what we want to do with our foundation. So, we started here in Arizona. We're trying to go nationwide with it, and, just really touch this next generation and inspire the youth coming through it.
I love that. And that reminds me of your movie, of this scene when your teammates all stepped up to have you still stay on the team and got a scholarship. So, how beautiful and what a 360 that is.
I've been blessed, to go to Arizona State, to receive a scholarship there. And, uh, you know, a lot of people doubted me, but I had my voices in the crowd. That's what I call them. My voices in the crowd that believed in me, that cheered me on, that helped me at certain moments in my life. So to be that person now, uh, you know, uh, that's what it's all about. It's important to reach your goals, to achieve success and get what you want in life, but it's just as important to help someone else do the same thing. Because nobody gets there alone. Looking back on my journey, there's so many people that I can thank, and had they not been there, it might be a different scenario, a different situation. So, that's something that I really take to heart now, and I try to just share with people. Is like, make sure when you get there, or on your way to getting there, help someone else that's trying to get there too. What can you do to better someone's day, to make put a smile on their face? And, if we all do that, the world will just be a much better place. That's what we need to focus on.
I completely agree. Do you mind sharing your website for your foundation?
Yes, ma'am. So you can find information on my foundation and me. My website is anthonyrobles.com.
Okay, perfect. Lastly, what would you tell your then high school, college age self?
I would say to my high school or college age self, make sure that you're enjoying the journey. Because going through my career, I kind of, it was hard at times to not focus on the very end of it. Like getting into the championship, all these things, and but just like just overlooking those simple days of going to practice, of having dinner with my team after practice when we're tired and sore and stressing. It's like those little moments in your life. Life goes by really quickly. Those 4 years, 5 years that I was ASU went really quickly. So I would tell myself that just enjoy the journey that you're on, savor those moments, those days. Really just be grateful for those things. Be grateful for those opportunities, because every day you wake up, it's an opportunity. No, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to face some losses. You'll have some bad days, things that happen, but you know, remember, just enjoy the ride. Enjoy that journey that you're on of life.
I agree, especially college. My daughter just graduated from college in
Congrats.
December. And every year I told her, I know it's stressful because I get it, midterms, all
Mm-hmm.
of that. But I told her, you're like, these 4 years are going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to enjoy these years and you want to make friends that are going to be long lasting. So I completely agree, especially college. One more thing, and then I know you got to go. What is your key takeaway that you want people, when they watch your movie, to take away from?
I want people to walk away believing that they can be unstoppable. Believing that that word applies to them. Because in life, you're going to wrestle something. It can be a missing leg. It can be family situations. It can, all these things. There's going to be an opponent that individually we all have to wrestle. But through it all, just remember, find that way to win. Find your opportunities and tell yourself every day, I'm unstoppable. Because that doesn't mean you don't doubt sometimes. It doesn't mean you don't get knocked down. You face some losses, you break. It means you find a way to come back together. You find a way just to get back up. It's like, okay, I'm going to take one more step. I'm going to fight one more day. And the more you can chain that up, that's what unstoppable is to me. So I just want the world to know that they can be unstoppable too. They just have to choose it every single day.
I love that. And it's unstoppable, so easy to say,
Mhm.
and but there's so much weight in that word. And I hope people don't take that word. They don't underestimate that word and the power in that word. So again, thank you so much, Anthony, for spending time with us. And I really encourage our listeners to watch your movie. It's on Amazon Prime called Unstoppable. You won't regret it. And it's family friendly, kids too. So it's not one of those where you have to fast forward through a scene or anything like that. So I highly encourage everyone to watch it. And again, thank you so much. And thank you for still inspiring others today and for the rest of your life.
Well, it's not. Thank you so much for your support and for the opportunity to share today.
Thank you.